movies, or pieces of pop culture as a whole, have climbed to the same heights that The Wizard of Oz has. You've almost definitely seen it, and if not, then you've at least heard of it. And right along those same lines, you've probably heard theories about this movie too. That's because there are more theories surrounding The Wizard of Oz than just about any movie, save for maybe The Shining, Pulp Fiction, or The Phantom Menace.
Jar Jar is the key to all this. If we get Jar Jar working.
This is saying something too, because nowadays most movies have some sort of theory surrounding them. Every time a new movie comes to theaters, or VOD now I guess, plenty of theory videos and posts usually surface within a few days. And if the movie's got anything to do with vaguely creepy animatronics, strap in because you're entering the mecca of internet theories. I think they call that the Golden Freddy effect. This hasn't always been the case, as most fan theories, whether they be based in fact or completely fabricated, didn't have the means to get off the ground and spread in the pre-internet world. Now that fans are all connected via the web, theories and tales from behind the scenes can take hold of the public movie discourse much more easily. Despite all of that, The Wizard of Oz has had dozens of popular, well-known theories and stories attached to it that stretch back 80 years, give or take. Just like its status in movie history, its place amongst the world of fan theories and speculation transcends the rest. These theories vary in scope, popularity, and category, ranging from on-set hangings to divine synchronicity with Pink Floyd's music, to more in-universe based stuff, like the idea that the wizard might somehow be Willy Wonka's grandfather. This is one of those true internet rabbit holes. A simple Google search in this case leads to potential hours of reading and watching that will have your mind blown part of the time, while also making you wonder just how much time people have on their hands to come up with some of this stuff. But of all movies, why is it that The Wizard of Oz has so much speculation circling it? It makes sense with the other examples I brought up. Stanley Kubrick and Quentin Tarantino, who directed The Shining and Pulp Fiction respectively, both are enigmatic auteurs who write their own scripts and have very specific goals that they are trying to achieve with each film. This invites the creation of fan theories because people are aware that these two make movies in a way that doesn't give the audience every detail explicitly. In other words, there's lots of room for interpretation in the film itself, and the creators of said film are the type of filmmakers that would implement subliminal messages or hidden meanings and symbolism in their films, in the hopes that sharp viewers might fully get their intended meaning. So those two check out. The large number of theories make sense in this case. With The Phantom Menace, well, I was kind of goofing around with that example earlier, but it still kind of works. I mean, it's Star Wars. The hardcore sect of that fan base is going to have a lot of theories no matter what the product on screen is. There are literally dozens of channels on YouTube dedicated solely to Star Wars theories, so that one checks out too. The Wizard of Oz doesn't have that. It was directed by multiple people, chiefly by Victor Fleming, but still, it doesn't bear a specific Victor Fleming trademark in the same way that Kubrick's movies bear his. There's no obvious reason to meticulously comb through 112 minutes of film for secrets and mysteries, and beyond that, no obvious reason to suggest that those secrets and mysteries even exist in the first place. Why then is there so much discussion around The Wizard of Oz? Why are people so convinced that this movie is keeping so much behind that curtain? Well, first, let's go through some of the actual theories and get an understanding of the type of stories that are being told about The Wizard of Oz, and then see if they hold any water. Once that's out of the way, we'll take a look at the question at hand. Why is it that this movie in particular has so many theories attached to it?
Peeled eyes.
Released in 1939, The Wizard of Oz is a musical fantasy film which has gone on to become a symbol of Hollywood's golden age and a piece of Americana. The story of a Kansas girl who finds herself whisked away to the whimsical world of Oz is one we all know intimately and can relate perfectly to. We want what she has. The film was greenlit in direct response to Walt Disney's first animated feature, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, with MGM hoping to find success with their own colorful fantasy film. The use of a vibrant and saturated color palette and the process used to achieve it really needs its own video. For the time and even now, it's incredible. Despite what you may have heard, this actually was not the first color movie or even the first Technicolor movie. The implementation of color and the transition from sepia in particular are so effective that it managed to create this myth. So, while not really a theory, it works as a transition to the actual theories. Let's get the common ones out of the way first, starting with the theory that The Wizard of Oz and Pink Floyd's 1973 album, The Dark Side of the Moon, match up as if one was made perfectly for the other. The emotional highs and lows of the music are said to match the arcs of the characters and the movements in the plot on screen. Even the finer details of the film, like shot selection and lighting choices, are alleged to harmonize perfectly with individual notes or words. This union has become known as Dark Side of the Rainbow and has been well known since 1995 when the theory was published in a newspaper from Fort Wayne, Indiana. The writer claimed pairing the two had the effect of creating one long music video art film hybrid. I've tried it and I don't know, it kinda works, I guess, if you really try your hardest to focus on anything that could possibly fit together. I thought it was a stretch. Pink Floyd have remained adamant that there is no connection between the two. Thankfully, in 1997, drummer Nick Mason cleared up the whole situation by revealing that the album was actually made to be synced with the sound of music. Glad that's cleared up. Next theory.
Ooh, yeah.
There's that one about how an actor who portrayed one of the Munchkins hung himself on set and that you can actually see his body in a shot of the movie. Yeah, clearly this one's not true. No one killed themselves on set, although apparently people did die in accidents. I guess the jury's still out on that one, because it seems to be that no one knows the truth. Of course, someone's actual corpse would never make the final cut of a theatrically released movie anyway, so clearly this isn't a real death, but its inclusion must have been intentional, right? The most elite film scholars believe in their own theory, that this was purposefully done to represent the oppression of the Munchkin people as a class. They have been forced to toil and labor while the rest of Oz walks on streets of gold. This man's death serves as a beacon for all of the Munchkins that are just trying to put food on the table for the hatchlings back home. Perhaps like the tragedy at the Triangle Shoe Waste Factory, this too can be a symbol for the rights of those who line the pockets of the rich. Theory solved. Rest in power, King. You could tie that in with the theory that this film is actually addressing the Great Depression and is an allegory for populism. Simply put, populism is a political philosophy that prioritizes ordinary people who have been left behind by the elite. This theory comes from the film's literature-based DNA. L. Frank Baum's original book was written in the late 1800s when populism was growing in popularity, especially in the lead-up to and the fallout from the presidential election in 1896. The book, and therefore the movie, have been seen as the journey of the ordinary people past obstacles and to the elite in their ivory, or in this case, Emerald Tower, where they finally achieve recognition in the form of what they've always been lacking most. Of course, this turns out to be all just a dream, reflecting that this will never actually happen. You can take that how you want, as a critique or an argument for populism. However, this movie has been theorized to be an allegory for many things, such as feminism, religion, atheism, anti-fascism, and many more, with the most recent being that the film was predicting a political shift like the Trump presidency. This seems to be a case of people finding exactly what they're looking for. The Wizard of Oz is whatever you want it to be. Hell, this movie could even be the meaning of life. I bet that argument is being made out there somewhere. There really are so many more theories that we could go through, but I think you get the idea. There's lots of top 10 lists out there if you really want to know all the ins and outs about the dozens of theories about which characters are actually evil, and which ones are supposed to represent God, and who shot first and all of that. The point is, there's a lot of these theories. The question is, why? I think there's a couple of major contributing factors here. The first is that the movie has that old Hollywood gloss all over the way it looks and sounds.
Come out, come out.
Everything is a big production here, with elaborate costumes and matte paintings. It has a mystique that comes from that time in film history. Tales from the days of the Big Five studios and the star system are inherently romantic, despite us all knowing how brutal this industry really was. The excessive production matches this romance to a T, and the idea that there are secrets and mysteries to be discovered amongst that romantic excess clearly has a wide appeal. This movie, more so than many others, feels magical. When I hear the words movie magic, something like The Wizard of Oz is always what comes to mind first. And I think that that's the same case for quite a few people. That magic is so appealing to watch or even just think about that it makes movies like The Wizard of Oz timeless. The air of mystique and grand production that the film carries resonated at the time it was released too, as the film was a massive success, and thus gossip about its productions and discussion of its deeper thematic elements cropped up immediately. This is a great example of a movie that actually captured the audience's imagination. Its imagery, songs, and story are so memorable that they inspire 8 decades worth of discussion. Remember how at the beginning of the video I referenced a theory that involves the wizard being Willy Wonka's grandfather? It might seem out of the blue to connect these two movies, but I actually think the reasoning for it backs up what I was just saying. I think that 1971's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is a rare movie that was able to capture some of that same lightning in a bottle that The Wizard of Oz did all those years ago. Both switch from more drab, neutral palettes to bright, saturated color cinematography. Both were elaborate productions with big musical numbers and sprawling sets filled with props, and both have darker parts that are notorious for traumatizing children, but weirdly, that too is all part of the magic that creates a real family classic. In essence, they both have that movie magic we remember experiencing as kids, and so, many of us hold them in a similar place. Willy Wonka has lots of theories surrounding it too, which isn't a surprise due to it occupying the same place in our minds that The Wizard of Oz does. Most of us saw this movie when we were kids, and because it's so universal and something most parents would think to show their children, it allows for us to tap into a shared nostalgia. Universal is the key word there, and that's because the majority of people being at least familiar with this movie allows for more opportunity for discussion. You're a whole lot less likely to speculate and theorize about a movie you haven't seen or at least heard of before. Couple that with the hit of nostalgia you're getting, and you've got a fertile ground for growing theories. Along with the nostalgia comes yet another reason for these myths and stories, particularly the more sinister ones. People like to find dark, disturbing, or adult themes and imagery in children's media, specifically stuff from their childhood that they are fond of. Again, there are tons of channels dedicated solely to spotlighting and discussing this stuff, so it makes sense that people would actively seek out anything in this movie from their childhood that is even slightly connected to darker ideas, and this adds yet another group of people who are adding to that big pile of Oz theories. As long as there are people, there will be theories about The Wizard of Oz. No matter what is happening in the world, this movie will somehow manage to reflect or comment on it from all the way back in 1939. One could feasibly live their entire life making only decisions based off of signs found in this movie, almost like it was a holy text. Fuck it, new theory. The Wizard of Oz is a secret manifesto of an underground cult religion set on destroying the planet and finding out.